and the mainstream media has such power. Look what's going on now. We have this concern over how the police are handling young black males in our society. And it's engendered a dialogue and confrontation that it could pull the country apart. We can't speak with each other now. We're depending on what side of the political spectrum you're on, and it's all made up. Black males are not victimized by the police. You know, you can look at some well-known statistics. 9 unarmed black males were killed by the police in 2018. 19 unarmed white males were killed by the police in 2019. If you're 18.5 times more police officers were killed by black males than police officers killed on unarmed black males. There was a very well-researched paper published by an academic group called the U.S. Academy for Sciences and Technology that looked at a long period of police shootings in the United States. And let me summarize their conclusion. Their conclusion said that they found no evidence of anti-black or anti-Hispanic prejudice on the part of the police. In that same sentence, they said, but there does seem to be an anti-white disparity. You're more likely in similar circumstances as an unarmed or a white male to get shot by the police. This is all made up, but they're tearing us apart. What can we do? What can you do in the Senate?
You know, Bill, I think you're making some good points. I think, first of all, everybody acknowledges, everybody on the left, everybody on the right, everybody agrees that what happened to George Floyd was horrific, was bad, should have never happened, and that police officer should be held accountable according to our justice system and due process. Everybody agrees with that. The what we must have, we must muster the courage in this country to have an open dialogue about this stuff, because, you know, I was reading there's over 300 million interactions each year between law enforcement and citizens. Over 300 million. And you know, and we need to look at the fact that the 99.9999% of those interactions are good, protective, and law enforcement doing the right thing. So we have to look at it with that context. You know, and you know, and one of the things I would like to see happen with all of this is, as we muster the courage to have this discussion, is I would like to see leaders from the conservative side of the African American community get into this discussion, because there's African American leaders out there that have studied it as you have, Bill, that understand those dynamics, whose perspective, you know, on all of this is very different than those we see on television, the Al Sharptons of the world. And, you know, the Bob Woodson, you know, Thomas Sowell, Shelby Steele, you know, these are smart African American folks who study this, and they have a totally different perspective on all this. And I think their perspective, you know, will help the African American community.
See, I think the most important thing you could do if you get into the Senate, we have to find a way to reform the media. That's the bottom line. All these people that you talk about, they're all great, but no one sees them unless you watch Fox News. And it has to be that they're just telling the truth. There's got to be a way without destroying the First Amendment rights. What most of the media are doing is treasonous. They're lying. They're perpetrating this Black Lives Matter thing is the biggest joke of all of it. I forget the Democratic Party that gets the money for it, but why are Black Lives Matter marching in Chicago? Those Black Lives don't matter when they're killing 10, 12, 15 people a weekend?
Each weekend is a massacre. Each weekend represents Baghdad. During the insurrection there. I mean, it's just horrible.
Where was Black Lives Matter with Ryan Terrell? If you ever had a chance to do anything, and you can't tell me there's members of Black Lives Matter in this city that they know exactly who Ryan Terrell is, but why? Because he's a Republican. And that kid had more qualifications than I keep calling him a kid. He's a grown man. He's 30 years old, but to me, he's a kid at my age. But the point is, there's a perfect opportunity. If you really are sincere, if you're really more than a bunch of thugs, because that's all they really are, they would go and support that kid. They should be marching. They should be in front of Walensky's house, and that. Why don't they do that? Where are they?
Look at Eddie Edwards, former chief of enforcement for the Liquor Commission, recorded himself just excellently as a congressional candidate, won the nomination. He's been nominated as essentially director of licensing for the state, and the Democrat-dominated executive council won't even put his nomination on the agenda because they know that once again they'll be caught out voting against an African American for no other reason than he doesn't fit their vision of who African Americans should be. He's conservative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the strength of America is our ability to have free speech, to talk about things, to be open-minded about things, and what's going on right now, in my opinion, it's very clear that Black Lives Matter has a leftist agenda. It's very clear. It's a revolutionary agenda, and sadly, the African American community will suffer because of it.